Priestess. It's kind of early, so hopefully that it won't get dark on me like it always does when I'm talking for 4 hours. So, this upload is inspired by a couple reels that I just watched on Instagram, and I was debating going live on Instagram, but um I feel like this I feel like my audience on YouTube, I don't know, I feel like YouTube is a bit more universal. Sometimes my audience on Instagram can be a bit nichey, and I just feel like these videos with all the different format changes, you can't really even share Instagram directly to Facebook. You have to like copy the link, and so I decided to talk to you guys, and I hope you do share this. I'm going to try not to be long-winded because this is really a just a practical response to these two reels that I saw pertaining to women. This is a bit more specific toward women, single over 40. Um, Now, I want to remind my audience, I entitled this Practical Solutions. I have done some recent uploads where I am addressing some spiritual solutions to things, but practical solutions, this is this is not dealing with spirituality, the spiritual aspect, what angels or demons may be involved, your spiritual calling, what God has to do with it. This is purely practical, put in practice, things you can put in practice that are tangible in the 3D, dealing with humanity, um, that that can alter, that can create the alchemy, create the formula that you may need, you know, to create the solution. And again, essentially the mathematical solution: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And I feel that I, just through my wisdom, through my experience with this status, and understanding how important it is for people who are single, child free, over 40 to listen to other people in that same circumstance instead of listening to relationship gurus, because they're most of them are married, instead of listening to married people talk about how they got married, because most of the time it had nothing to do with them or being at the right, right place or the right time. It's happenstance. It is luck of the draw a lot of times. But when you start to analyze and alchemize and deduce a problem and a solution in a mathematical or practical, also logical way, I want you all to understand. I feel like this is the most simple formula to understand the solution, just by understanding the problem, what the numbers are, what the formula is, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, what you got to add, subtract, multiply, divide to create the solution or for things to add up. And a relationship is about being evenly yoked. It's about finding your partner. It's not about doing what someone else did to get your partner and this and that. So again, this is practical. This is not spiritual solutions. This is just the practicality of it. And I kind of like not putting people on blast and like directly responding and creating like these long threads of responding to people and making people popular because they gave an opinion. I like just kind of explaining the reels that I saw. And while I do want to get the links, it's kind of hard to get a link when you don't actually like something. You maybe just comment on it, watch it, but if you don't like it, it's hard to go back and find the reels. So this upload is inspired by the reel that I saw on Instagram, and I can find you the Instagram page, but it was entitled like 20 to 50% of women over 40 are on or will be on antidepressants or are on antidepressants. And it showed a series of women, um I don't want to say having breakdowns or meltdowns, but it showed a series of women, because a lot of some of them were trying to be comical about it, were but it just showed a series of women essentially complaining, and expressing, um what, essentially the pain of being single over 40, single child free, most of them single child free over the age of 40, but essentially, women being single, um over the age of 30 or 40. And what I noticed about this particular reel was all the women, and these were all white women, um all these women were attractive. All of them were attractive. And all of them had personality enough to express what they were expressing. Um but it was a bit cringy, um you know, and especially when put in the context of the title talking about women being on antidepressants. So it was directly related to the pain or the depression, um that these women were expressing live because of being single, not being able to find a man, not being chosen. And the next reel that I saw, was a married woman who was a 4 at best. She didn't have any like makeup or hair done and everything. She's not a beautiful woman. She was a 4, white woman. And um she was saying how she's sick of single people, as a married woman, always having something negative to say about people in relationships or about the relationship or how the relationship functions. And she gave the example of, um she was talking to a friend about, um how she doesn't have to do laundry, or she doesn't do laundry, or what I'm saying, but she takes out the trash, this and that, and every, and how her friend had something to say about it and had something negative to say about the way her relationship functioned. And so she was talking about how she was sick of single people. um so I want to get to that, and I kind of, um when talking about the practical solutions to being single and child free over 40, um, I want you to first understand that if you are 40 or over and you're still single, your depression, that depression aspect, and this is specific to women, because I forgot to mention the main thing about the first reel, where all the women were talking about the anxiety of being single over 40. When I went to the comment section, mostly men, but men and women, all had something negative to say about the women who were complaining and being vulnerable about this very painful situation. Peace, bless Queen. All of the comments, mostly men, but also women, were ridiculing the women, saying things like, that's what happens when you're too picky, that's what happens when you have a fantasy, that's what happens when you think you're too good, that's what you get for being too choosy, or only wanting to, only thinking that you deserve the best guy, that's what happens when you think you deserve a rich guy, that's what happens. All the comments were ridiculing these women and blaming the victim, um attacking these women, saying this is what you deserve because you just, essentially accusing all these women who none of these people know personally, accusing all of these women of wanting more than what they should have wanted, and ending up single because they wanted a guy that they thought they deserved and they didn't, that they should humble themselves. And that's what you get when you don't lower your standards and choose trash. All of the comments were alluding to that. And there was only one comment that was not attacking these women who were being very vulnerable about a very painful situation causing depression. Peace, bless queen. I'm just talking about being single, child free, over 40, and right now I'm just explaining the reels that I'm responding to and the practical solutions that I have for people, and just explaining what these reels were saying and doing, and why I have a practical solution, and why I want women who are single, child free, over 40 to understand the reason, which is the problem, or the reason you have reached the age of 40 and are finding yourself still single instead of married, so to speak, or even in a relationship, but particularly instead of married, and the solution to it. And I want to start with the comment section, where all these people were attacking these women that they don't know, but just accusing these women of having too high standards. Didn't know anything about these women other than the pain that they're experiencing in this circumstance. And all of the comments from men and from women were attacking these women, accusing them of having too high standards, of saying that's what you get and that's what you deserve, for wanting this or wanting that, not having any clue of what any of these women could have gone through up to the age of 40 while dating. Maybe some of them have been divorced. Some of them probably have been raped and have sexual trauma and other things, have a lot of things going on, which is, again, what I want to get to. So I need women who have reached the age of 40 and are single and child free to understand how much you're hated. And remember the main thing I said. All of the women in this particular video were attractive. And I cannot keep stressing this enough. If you, as a woman, particularly a white woman, because again, if you're a black woman, it's perfectly normal in the black community, if you're attractive especially, to end up single 40, 50, 60, 70, because the men are trash. They have slave syndromes. They date ugly women. They date and marry white women. This is a slave syndrome because that is what they were forced to sleep and breed with in slavery. And it has not been bred out, that this inferiority has not been bred out of the black man. So if you are a beautiful black woman who is intelligent and moral, the churches are not going to necessarily help you. Your sororities are not necessarily going to help you. These places are still full of average, mediocre, mostly overweight, and average 3, 4, 5 out of 10 looking black women who they themselves have some slave mammy syndromes and have not much else to do but get married and get pregnant and get even fatter than they probably already are, coming from a community that probably does not eat healthy. So aside from all the slave syndromes in the black community that directly affect a black woman who has any sense of class, I talked about that. If you are a black woman who is fit, who takes care of your body, who is fit, who is shaped differently than obese black women, overdeveloped black women who look overdeveloped at teen ages, and this and that. If you are a black woman who is slim and you look good, you don't look like Nina Simone, you're not ugly in the face. You're attractive in the face, and you are slim the way white women tend to be slim based on the standards of beauty in the white community. If you meet the standards of beauty that white women have in the white community as a black woman, you are not to find a eligible black man who does not have these slave syndromes and is afraid to go after the high value sister with some morals. If it doesn't happen young through church and through your community, breeding men who are moral through a church community, or through some type of community or some type of family structure where the men are raised to be moral and married, you've got to get away from black people. The slave syndromes are not conducive to a black woman who takes care of herself and wants a little bit more than to get pregnant by the age 15 or 25 But all these women in this particular reel were white. And this is why this is more practical, because black people's inferiority is directly related to a spiritual curse. You're in the black community, your body isn't enough, but in the white community, I look like a model. So you get what I'm trying to say. And maybe and hopefully some of these other things you can at least relate to, you know what I'm saying? Bless. But this is exactly what I'm saying. The reel that I'm responding to, all these women were white. So when you get to a point where you have white privilege and you're finding yourself single, child free, over 40, you got to understand, I've talked about this time and time again, because in the black community, when all these women were attractive. These were white women who were attractive. I'm not saying they were models, but they were attractive for women who were depressed at age of 40. And you're not going to find that. You're not going to find that in anything lower than upper class. Anything lower than upper class, you're going to find most of the married women are unattractive, because that's the norm. All right. Attractiveness is directly related to higher class. It's directly related to higher intellect. It's directly related to eating better, having habits that keep you attractive. It is directly related to how you're raised as a child, how you're allowed to hold your jaw. That's why you see black people looking like, holding their mouth like they're still sucking a nipple, because they are not encouraged or trained to speak and use their jaw and use their mouth and facial structure in a way that develops the muscles when you speak properly. And they have this lazy slack jaw, and they hold their mouth open like a slave. Slaves were not taught advanced communication. So, you know what I'm saying? So there's African ways of communicating. But what I'm saying is attractiveness is directly related to higher class and education, you know, especially in this day and age where everyone is naturally ugly. There was a time where all people looked attractive because men looked like men and were chiseled like men, and women were shaped like women. And furthermore, women were shaped like girls before they became women. And that was part of the beauty. Versus the slave syndrome of black women just being obese at any age because they're raised to breed instead of to be feminine, be protected, be vulnerable like a innocent little girl, and grow into womanhood and require a man have a certain level of masculinity. So again, in the black community, the attractive people tend to end up, the men become players because they don't have to develop their character to get women. Women are all the average ugly women who need validation and want an attractive man because they themselves are ugly, are going for the men who look good. And these men become players and never develop personality traits conducive to marriage. They spend the rest of their life letting ugly women throw themselves at them, and they never develop the character to be with a beautiful woman who requires him to be a protector and a provider instead of sexually weak. So when you're an attractive black woman with any sense of morals, all the attractive black men are trash. They're players who deal with ugly women because there's no effort in getting that woman. So you have to leave the black community to where men are raised to be men and to have to earn the beauty of a woman. These men go with ugly women because their personality is trash. All right? So in the black community, the attractive women who are immoral end up baby mamas, popped in their 20s, someone's baby mama, and the attractive men end up players with multiple baby mamas. But in the white community, when there's a higher standard for a woman's beauty, you have to understand the like I said, the importance of the fact that all these women in this reel were white is directly related to all these women were attractive. And so the practical solution to why you have reached the age of 40 and are single for anyone, including some black women, is because your friends don't like you. And I have been stressing this a lot in the past few weeks and months even. You have to look at how you have reached the age of 40. And this is where the depression aspect comes from. The depression of being single and child free at the age of 40 comes from your friend circle. It comes from your social circle. And the mistake that I want to say that these women, and there's nothing, I don't want to say that you're making a mistake by going live. You can do whatever you want, when you're an adult. You can express yourself however you want. But I need you to understand going live and broadcasting your pain is directly related to not having friends. Because when you have friends, your friends are the ones that you call and you cry to, or you vent to, or you say, man, I'm so frustrated with being single, this, and that. But the reason you're going live, telling potentially millions of strangers, definitely thousands, whether the algorithms show you how many people have viewed it or not, you are automatically exposing yourself to at least thousands of people anytime you go live. What makes someone so depressed that you're going live to strangers? Because you don't have friends to talk to. And that's how you've reached the age of 40 and are still single. Because if all of your friends are married and you've reached the age of 40 and are still single and child free, and I'm assuming have never been married, but if you've been married and are divorced, you know what I'm saying, that's a little different. Because you've had relationship, you've had marriage, and there's still a pain of having a failed relationship while your friends have had lasting ones, meaning maybe you've been divorced and maybe you've been single. There's still a pain of having a relationship that failed versus your friend's relationship has worked out for 15 years, for 10 years, for 7 years. And you had to go through the heartbreak and the turmoil of a divorce, which is a lot worse than just breaking up with somebody who you didn't have a baby with or shared assets and shared community. You said exactly, Bless says, if that's the case, why don't the friends know eligible suitors for their friends say, hey, I have a single friend for you to be a great match. Thank you for saying my point. The first problem or reason you have reached the age of 40 as an attractive woman and are still single, the first and foremost reason is your friends don't like you. And the reason you're depressed is because if all of your friends are in relationships, let alone happy, healthy ones, and all they're doing is bragging to you about it. Because you have to understand something. That second reel that I talked about, where the married woman said she can't stand single people because they always have something negative to say. What married people don't understand subconsciously that they do is they intentionally brag about their marriage when they're around single people. You got to understand a lot of married women are threatened by you being single and you still being attractive. And it's not that they're unhappy in their marriage, they are still threatened by your womanhood. They can't fathom having to go through life without a man. And they attach themselves to a man because their identity comes from being a wife. That's their whole identity as a woman. Your identity never was rooted in a man. Your validation as a woman never came from a man. And that is the second reason which I don't is not a problem, but is the second main reason you have reached the age of 40 as an attractive woman are still single. Your validation doesn't come from a man. And I can guarantee 9 out of 10 marriages of women, these women have settled because their validation in life did not come from a goal they had. It came from becoming a mother and becoming a wife. They had nothing else to do. So they needed to settle down at the earliest age possible because they had no purpose. Now, I'm not talking about women who at the young age wanted to become mothers. They couldn't wait to become mothers and they made that their purpose and they took motherhood seriously. And it's nothing wrong with having the goal of being a mother and knowing marriage comes with that. But that's not all women. A lot of women have nothing better to do. Their validation as a woman, they didn't want to become a pilot, they didn't want to become a superstar, they didn't make music, they didn't have any talent growing up. So you got to understand why married women, and I'm talking to single women, child free over 40, why your married friends intentionally brag to intentionally trigger you and then like to go complain when you're negative. Because what your married friends who have watched you get to the age of 40 are doing, what your married friends have been doing to you for over a decade, if that's how long they've been married, but if not for at least 15 years or whatever, what they've been doing is bragging about their marriage to you the way as if, like, let's say a person's in a wheelchair. What married people like to do is they like to go up to the person in the wheelchair and say, wow, I love having legs. You know what I did with my legs that work today? I went and I ran and I jogged and I jumped and I swam and I had great sex, which is what they love alluding to and applying to and talking about. Having sex because they're so happy that one person chose them. And back to the other solution, or the other reason you have reached the age of 40 as a attractive woman and are single and child free. All right? You have options, and it has made it harder for you to choose one particular man. Your friends didn't have options. They had one guy and they had to hold on to him for dear life because they did not have enough character, charisma, personality, purpose to be out here and go years, decades being without some man to validate their very existence. You are a high value woman. And so you had more options to choose from, which made it harder for you to choose, let alone choose the right guy, not some guy who just wanted you for sex, which is another reason why you're attractive, single, child free, over 40, because most of the guys just wanted sex. And they most of the guys did not like you any more than these women, your friends. They don't like you because of your attractiveness, because of your beauty, because of your charisma. You are not liked, and you are only liked when you're suffering. And you being single is a sign of you suffering or you somehow not being as good as them or them being better. Married people intentionally go to single people to brag about the marriage. They don't like to brag to other married people because then they might accidentally become insecure because someone else's marriage is better and happier and wealthier and more well off, and the kids are more well off than theirs. That's why married people don't brag to other married people about their marriage. They go find that handicapped person without legs, whose legs are blown off, who's in a wheelchair, whose legs don't work, who's paralyzed, and they brag to that person about what they did with their legs today. Married people do that, and they do it on purpose. Why? Validation. You have served as your married friend's validation when in the real world, without that husband, could she go out and be single? Could she go out and get 10 guys to really be attracted to her after she's become fat and ugly from having kids and being married and being loved by a man who's average, but not really having kept up with herself to compete with how beautiful women are out here in the dating world without somebody validating her. Would she be able to go get that validation out in the real world as a single woman that you get for your beauty, for your intellect, for your skills, for all these other things you have going for you other than being married? Bless says they want to hear you complain. Um yes, and this is what I'm trying to say, that your married friends, they're not hooking you up with other single people in their social circle, in their married social circle, because you being single is, it validates what they believe their marriage says about them and their status. Married people like to use single people to validate their marriage and validate, I have a status that's higher than other people. And in the end of the day, these are not beautiful women. These are not beauty queen women. And like I said, a lot of these single women were attractive. Sorry. These were attractive women. And so you got to understand, when you are at the age of 40 and all your and you're suffering from depression from being single, it's because of your friends. If you had friends to vent to that you could trust with your emotions, you wouldn't have to go live and vent to strangers. And the solution, the most practical solution, is you have to stop hanging around your married friends and married people in general. The other reason you have gotten to the age of 40 and are single and child free is, if it's not that your friends hate you and don't like you and are jealous of you and enjoy seeing you suffer and be at what they perceive to be a lower status than they are, it's because your parents hated you. And this is the more harsh truth that a lot of people need to really confront. You came from a household where you were being abused. You were not given the love that you should have been given as a child by one or both of your parents. You were abused, mistreated. You might have had parents who were narcissists and made themselves a center of attention when you as a child should have been their center of attention for you to properly develop. And you have a developmental, um you've developed through this trauma, or somewhere there was a lack of love from your parents, and you have learned to accept love from people who don't like you. You have been programmed to love people and to have relationships and to live and share space with people and to even answer to people who don't like you and may even hate you. And so you have gone up 40 plus years living a life of loving people who hate you, who don't like you, who abuse you, because you were programmed to receive abuse as a form of love, because you had abusive parents and you were young and vulnerable, and your mind was accepting that abuse as a form of love because that was your parent. And so you have to reprogram yourself to understand you're worthy of someone who loves you. And you don't have to be with someone who chooses you, but chooses you because they see you're insecure and you are easily manipulated and you will accept less and you will be abused. And you may have found yourself in a string of relationships with, that word they love to say, with narcissists, but relationships with people who treated you the way your parents, who did not like you and abused you and might have actually hated you because of envy. And I'm talking to women, and a lot of you women are not confronting you're not confronting how your father may have treated you, to program you to see yourself as more of an object instead of someone to be loved for your personality. Your mother may have been very jealous of you and not liked you and never did anything to help you succeed. And so you may be find yourself having been in relationships with men who are not relationship material. Men who are do not know how to commit to a woman or do not want to commit to one woman and pour love into her. You may have found yourself having a natural chemistry with men who are abusive, who are violent, who have addictions, who talk down to you, who like to embarrass you and disrespect you in public or in front of your friends to tear you down, to make you feel less than because you're attractive and but you don't know how to wield it and you don't know the worth of your attractiveness, so they can come in and swoop in and abuse you like a punching bag, whether they actually hit you or do all these emotionally abusive things that your parents did to you. And you end up in relationships that never lead to marriage, you know? Um, and this can happen to anyone, but again, a lot of times being single over 40 is directly related to how attractive you are compared to the community you come from. And if you come from a household where you were so attracted that your mother was already jealous of you and your father was already objectifying you instead of properly protecting and providing for you and loving you, he was teaching you how to objectify yourself. That can lead to being single, child free over 40, because a program of choosing people like your parents instead of choosing people who love you, because you never learned what real love, what someone loving you for who you were is. You only understood what it was like for people to be jealous of you and mistreat you, and for you to feel like you have to put up with it because under your parents you had to put up with it because they were your parents. You don't have to put up with abuse anymore. So, Bless says, yeah, that happened in church. I went to this girl around my age was showing off her ring. He proposed to me and blah, 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 blah. You got to understand, most women are ugly, unattractive, worthless, and they don't have any talent or skills. They have to get married at a young age because they're afraid of ending up single, child free over 40. And the reality of it is they are going to go with the first guy, the first offer they get, because they don't see themselves as attractive. They need that validation. They're not looking for love. And like I said, if you come from any form of abusive household, you're looking for love from someone. And these men don't love these women. And these men don't love you. They're using you for your attractiveness, and they're using an ugly woman for the same validation. These men are bitch made, and they go after these ugly, unattractive women because they're not man enough to go out and hunt for the kill. And that's why, again, the more attractive you are as a woman, you have got to deal with more testosterone driven communities, martial artists, military men, high earning businessmen, any competitive sport, including business and politics and all these, any competitive sport, you have got to deal with men who have the testosterone to compete, because men who do not have the testosterone to compete are going to go for ugly women, and they're going to let that woman do all the work. He's going to let that woman hunt him down, and he's going to sit like a bitch. And the danger in these women who end up marrying the man that they hunted down like a man, like a huntress, and they hunted down their husband and tackled down their husband, is they're going to end up with down low men who don't even like women. Don't even like women. And that's why they're not pursuing women. And they're not pursuing the woman that tickles his fancy, the woman that he desires, the woman that he has a crush on. And you got to understand the difference between a man really liking you, really excuse me, a man really pursuing you and a man wanting to have sex with you for validation, wanting to get you to like him and to see him as an option for his own validation, wanting to get you to let him parade you around in public so he can get other women who are not going to be as beautiful as you to like him because he knows that those women will put out. And but you're going to require dinners and marriage and commitment before you put out. These women just want to have sex with an attractive man because they themselves are ugly. Ugly women do this. They want attractive men more than anyone because they are not looking in the mirror and getting aroused by their own beauty the way a beautiful woman can. Their breasts are mismatched, misshapen. Their stomachs, their backs, all their body is misshapen, and they are not beautiful in the face. They're ugly ducklings, and their features are not something that they can look at and be aroused. They look at other women and they prefer to look like those women, or they are sexually more aroused by these other women. And that is why a lot of women end up confused about their sexuality because they look in the mirror and they are not sexually aroused by their own reflection, by their body or their face, and they look at other women and they get sexually aroused by that woman's beauty and they end up thinking they're gay when they are just ugly. They're just unattractive, manly looking women and they desire men, but they take on this homosexual gay role because they believe that they are homosexual because they are sexually attracted to other women who simply know how to be feminine. So, all that lesbianism and stuff like that, you gotta understand women who cannot get out here and use their beauty to compete for men, they're gonna they're gonna start competing with men. If they can't compete with women, they're gonna compete with the men, you know. So, um, bless you say, um, of course she was basic, like you said, most of the married women are unattractive. I'm glad this is resonating for you, Henry K. Peace. You said you need to find a man who's going to invest in you. Um, yes, but ladies, single, child free over 40, you don't have to find a man. It is still, I don't care if you're over 40. I don't care if you're single, child free. I don't care if you're depressed. The reason you're depressed, instead of leveling up, living your best life, enjoying your life, and just accepting the reality that you're single, child free. But I can guarantee you are more beautiful than all of your friends who are married. And if you're not, you need to be working on that instead of worrying about a relationship. But the first thing you need to do is you need to get rid of all of your friends, especially the married ones, all of them. Because the other reason you have found yourself as a woman, single, child free, over 40, as an attractive white woman at that, like the reel that I'm responding to was full of, and this is kind of automatic for black women, if you come from a impoverished black community. But you gotta understand too, if all of your friends are also single and they have kids, they're single, unmarried, but they have kids, or they have addictions. If you have friends that are smokers, if you have friends that are anything but athletes that go to the gym all the time, if your friends are anything but athletes, martial artists, um, um, or um, have a, I don't want to necessarily say a high earning career, a active career, meaning they are constantly working or their art is constantly booked. If you have friends that are anything other than constantly busy making money or constantly busy keeping their body at its optimal level of health, If you have friends, if you're single, child free, over the age of 40 as a woman who's active, and you have friends that are anything but busy keeping their body at its optimal athletic ability, or they are busy making money every hour of the day, and that keeps them busy, your friend circle's trash. You probably have friends that are single parents, which alludes to sex addictions, immorality. You probably have friends that are cigarette smokers, which means they're probably also alcoholics, you know, or you probably have friends that are on a weight loss journey or are quitting drinking. They're not sober. They're going through the journey and the healing process of overcoming some addiction, food addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. You probably have friends who are physically unhealthy, physically unfit, um, and immoral. So they probably have children out of wedlock. Again, divorce is a very tricky thing, and it can be very tragic too. And as a single child free woman, this is the last reason I really want you to um this is the one of the last reasons I really want you to accept. And like I was trying to reiterate, if your friends are not all married, because it's one or the other. If you've reached the age of 40, single, child free, not really including divorce at this moment, but it could happen. Either all of your friends are married or all of your friends are trash. Because if all of your friends were healthy and rich, you you would have eligible mates to choose from. And why am I saying that? You have to understand you've reached the age of 40 and are single and child free because you have not yet accepted how high your standards actually are. And you have stayed in a community, in a social circle full of people who have lower standards than you, and you have not chosen to level up to really put yourself in a place with people who have standards as high as yours. You have not accepted you have higher standards. Because the reason people end up going through a divorce in their 30s, 40s, and 50s is because of settling instead of growing into who they are, into their standards, and making someone reach those standards. And that's why Henry is saying it's not love, it's an investment. And I'm assuming that you're a man, and I think that single men and women need to listen to each other. And again, not necessarily listen to married people. The only exceptions I would say when it comes to listening to married people is if these married people are a role model of yours and you are going down their path and you're taking all of their advice, not just marriage advice. Meaning if the Barack and Michelle Obama are role models of yours, and they have something to say about marriage, and you took that advice because you take all of their advice because they're role models and you following their footsteps, and taking their guidance or following in their footsteps as role models has actively improved your life over the years. So it's okay if there's a couple in church that serves as a role model, or their leaders, and they have something to say about marriage and you're taking their advice, but that's not coming from that couple, it's coming from the Bible. They are just really messengers of what the Bible has to say. So when you're listening to people who have applied God's word or applied certain wisdom and philosophies and it's worked for them, and you're following the philosophy that your role models have applied, or you're following a certain philosophy and you can pinpoint people who have successfully followed that philosophy that you admire, I would say that's the only exception. Otherwise, as a single person, you are not to listen to married people. They can't help you. They don't understand your problem. They probably never will, unless God or life takes away their spouse, and now they find themselves unable to brag about their vacation, unable to brag about how well their kids are doing in school, unable to brag about not having to take out the trash, or I don't have to do laundry, or my husband did this for me, and he did that for me. And now all of a sudden she can't brag about that husband doing everything that she knows that you don't have a man doing for you, or she assumes you don't because you're not married, even though you may have 10 niggas in your inbox ready to help you fix your house and come take out your trash and this and that. And that's the other thing. Don't, as a single child-free woman over 40, get online and complain about it. You should be empowered at all times, because the reason you have reached this ripe age and have found yourself single, child free over 40, and that it's bothering you, is because you have not accepted that everyone around you hates you. And in you being surrounded by people who do not like you and do not really include you until it's time to clown you. Okay? You probably have not accepted that that behavior came from abusive parents, and you have not accepted how high you are, because you have higher standards and that you're not going to settle. And until you grow into your standards and live in them and outgrow all of these mediocre people who will settle for less, but you're surrounded by people who don't meet your genuine standards. Stop being fake out here. Stop faking low class. And Black women, stop faking like you don't speak proper English. Stop letting other ignorant, ugly, disgusting, low moral Black women suck you into that energy of talking ghetto. It is a luxury for a Black person to be educated. And stop acting like it still isn't. Have you seen Black people in 2026? Stop acting like you are an ignorant nigger if you are an educated sister. You are only doing yourself a disservice, and you are only making the ugliest of Black women feel validated in their low class. Do better. Black women, stop faking ignorance. Stop faking being a nigger when you are educated. Stop faking it for other Black people. And stop faking it for white people who are entertained by that version of you. Because you're too weak to really square up with white people intellectually, square up with these white women beauty wise. Stop lowering yourself because you have the slave syndrome of, I have to get by acting like a fucking slave. Black women, you are faking it. Stop it. Act like a white girl. Act like a white girl. You have got to be okay with letting all of these low class, bad energy, demonic possessed, cursed Black friends that you have fade away from your life. And you will reach the age of 40 and 50 because you are faking like you are less than and low energy, and you're faking like you are like everyone around you when you are not. You're high class, you're high value, you're educated, you listen to different music, you like different things. So stop lowering yourself because you're surrounded by Black men who don't even know how to fine dine. A lot of these Black men don't even know how to go out to a fine dining restaurant, and they don't know the social etiquette. They'll be looking around, then they'll be trying to flirt with the white girl to get attention. They'll be trying to draw attention to themselves because they feel like they're on the spotlight because they've never been in a situation where they're the only Black person. You don't want to end up with some inferior nigga like that, sisters. And this goes for all women too. You are faking low class when you are extremely high class. You may have come from poverty. You may have came from middle class. You may have came from lower middle class. You may have been white trash. As a Black person, you most likely came from the slave trade. But when you have high class as a person, when you have way more dignity and self-respect, and you're educated, and you are not marginalizing yourself to acting like a slave mammy, you have got to let go of the community that you're in. And that is directly related to moving. It is not normal to be single, child free, over 40, and everyone around you has found a mate. You are in the wrong place. And you've stayed in that place because you're faking like you are like these people when you belong in a castle. And you need to accept that you want royalty, that you are royalty, that you're better. And you need to go to a place where people think like you. And you know if they think like you because they're going to dress like you, they're going to listen to similar music, and they're going to be doing one of two things, if not both. They're going to be spending their time keeping their body at its optimal athletic ability, or they're going to be spending all their time making money doing business. Whether they are the product or they have a service or they are a business person, they're going to be spending their time with a purpose that that earns. If you're not surrounded by people who are on purpose, athletic, fit, beautiful, and wealthy, you're gonna find yourself single way longer than you should be because you haven't accepted how you think. You think like royalty. And you have to be surrounded by people who think like that, and you'll know they do because their life is going to look like that. Henry says, that's why you need to find someone who's going to invest in you, not love. Um, you know, I, again, I think women need to understand, women, single, child free, over 40, you need to understand, if your attractiveness is a lot of times directly related to being single. And if you have not recognized the value of your attractiveness and you're continuing to let guys play in your face when they are not investing in you, they're not offering you a relationship, and you have a lot of options from a lot of guys because of your beauty. But if you don't know how to invest in yourself, and if you have not been investing in yourself and you're spending too much time complaining online and boo-hooing, I'm single, child free, over 40, but you're not going to the gym or figuring out ways to become rich instead of worrying about a man, it's because all of your friends around you are intentionally bragging to you and want you to be depressed. You would not be depressed because you're single if you had real friends. And if you're single at the age of 40, you have to invest in friendships with single women, preferably child free, who have not been divorced either, because these divorced women, they got some different issues that women who have just been single and have never settled or made the wrong decision and simply are really understand their worth enough to not do something when it's not right and when it's not perfect for them. Women, you reach the age of 40 because you gotta accept that you know your worth, and no one has met your standards, so therefore it's time for you to move, or at least rotate away from everyone you know, because they don't like you and they're all married, or they're all trash because they're addicted to something other than the being the best version of themselves. You haven't gotten over your childhood trauma, and you accept people who are genuinely abusive, people who don't like you, who are using you. And you got to understand, you will make the wrong decisions when you don't invest in yourself, when you don't keep your body at its optimal level, when you don't eat healthy, when you accept less for yourself and your body and your life, you will accept less in other people. And your social circle will look like a bunch of cigarette smoking addicts who curse and have no morals and will flirt with each other's husbands or wives or girlfriends. These immoral vagabonds. They're probably always facing eviction, or it's going to be a bunch of people who are jealous of you and who get married. Because again, if you had friends, if you have group of five friends, if two of them are married, you're going to be the third, fourth, or fifth one married, if you had real friends. but you've reached the age of 40 because none of your friends like you. They hate you, they're jealous of you, and they have enjoyed you being single while they get the validation of some ugly broke dude married them. Accept that you don't want the type of relationship that any of your friends have. You just want the person who's right for you. And you're not going to find the person who's right for you if you are a high value, royal thinking, regal thinking woman who is surrounded by low value men who don't even know fine dining etiquette, who you can't even take to a upscale place or upscale venue without them embarrassing you because they have so many slave syndromes, or simply because their personality is so poor. Do you in it, like Henry was saying, if you, ladies, you should be spending every day investing in yourself so you can attract men who not only like to invest in women, who like to invest in women because they're not homosexual secretly or openly. They like to invest in women, men who are healthy, meaning their testosterone is intact, meaning they are going to do the man's work in pursuing, protecting, and providing. They're not going to make you pursue them to get a relationship so they can just cheat on you once you propose to him and get, like these there's you got to realize what women are doing to get a man, and you have to accept that you're not going to do that. So go where men don't make women do all the work to get to be married. It's not going to be the Midwest. um Blessed that they are not going to love. That's why you gave up. I'm in my early 20s. You stopped trying to date. um Henry says you're wrong. And I'll always have a good attitude, but you have to date as a healed woman. You have to date as a confident woman, and you have to date as a mature woman. So if you're immature, meaning you don't know who you are, you don't know what you like, you haven't gotten over your ex, you are not certain about what you will and will not put up with. You're not ready to date. And you're not only going to be confusing yourself, you're going to be confusing men that are good men, and you're going to be like, "Oh, they're not good men." No, they're you have to know what you want so you don't waste your time or anyone else's when dating. Dating is always going to be hard when you're still in love with your ex, when you don't have not invested in yourself so you know exactly how much you require someone to invest in you. Women who don't invest in looking good, or these women could be ugly, but if they spent 500 on a wig and 300 on facial and lashes and makeup, they still invested in themselves no matter how ugly they are. And so they have more confidence and more requirements than some women who are beautiful but don't wear makeup and they come from church and they're goody two shoes. No, you're not a goody two shoes. You just don't value yourself. And you were taught not to value yourself. And until you work on how much you value yourself, you cannot go into dating. Dating is not I met the love of my life in high school and we got into a relationship. Dating is a sport. Dating is active. Dating is it, you know is it, dating is an activity. And that's why, as a single person, you have to get on dating apps. All these relationship people who are telling you not to get on dating apps have someone, and they didn't have to get on a dating app to find that person they've been with. So they don't know what they're talking about. Dating is very interactive, and you have to be ready to socialize and interact and compete. And you have to know who you are to date. And you have to date if you find yourself single over any age, especially if single's such a problem for you. And the reason being single is a problem for you is because men are not hollering at you. If you have men hollering at you left and right, you wouldn't feel single. You wouldn't feel, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? You would still feel like you had options, like these men who stay players until they're 70 because women are always throwing their pussy at them because they're attractive, you know. They stay good looking, so they'll never have a you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't feel so ugly and alone and unchosen, and like all of your friends are getting chosen, if you were surrounded by other single child-free women over 40 who looked good and who had a different standard in life and who thought like you, so they are in the same position in life as you. You have got to accept that your married friends are not your social circle. You have got to accept who you are in life and where your life is. Your social circle and the people you relate to, your tribe, your crew, your community, and where you belong is with single child free women over 40. That's where you belong. It's not with a bunch of married people and kids. I don't care if you want marriage and kids. You're single, child free over 40, and married people are incredibly threatened by you. And you have not accepted that. Stop listening to anyone online. Stop listening to other people. Sit with yourself for a week. Be alone. Do things alone. Figure out who you are. And then decide if you even have the energy to date. Or decide if you want to just invest in yourself and be the most attractive you can be so men come at you and you don't feel like you got to find a husband. That's a masculine way of thinking. And it's not your job to find a husband. I don't care if you're 70. It's still a man's job to pursue you. You have to know your worth. And the moment you get desperate and start going online and giving all these people who hate you fuel to attack you for being beautiful and having higher standards, you know, spend 300, 500, $1,000 on yourself, on pouring into yourself, making yourself look good, allowing yourself to eat healthier, gym, spa, whatever you need. Or if it's spend $1,000 on going to events where you're going to meet people that have the same level of class as you. Henry says, nope, they confused because they're scared of men at that moment. Every person has their own beauty. You said been calling Oreo your entire life. Yeah, not you had a one that was yelling at the waiter, which isn't proper etiquette. And this is what I'm trying to say, ladies. If you got into the age of 40 and you're still single, it's because you probably have all your life been far more mature than everyone around you. And you have not been brave enough to leave where you come from. Have you ever watched Kendra G? Yes, I do like Kendra G, I believe. I'm trying to and I believe Kendra G, she's the one that with the podcast, and she talks a lot about the inferiority of black men. If I'm not mistaken, that she's the one. Um, because I know, yeah, Tasha K's married, and she acts like it. You gotta understand that there's a huge difference between how married women act, and they've always acted like that, and how single women are. You gotta look at married women and how they act, how they behave in the marriage, how they treat their husband. They're all, if you're a single, beautiful woman and you get around a married woman, the first way to know she's insecure is she throws her husband around like some tool to compete with you with. My husband did this. My husband's gonna take care of that. Oh, I'm gonna get my husband. Every conversation, it can't be about womanhood. It has to be about the fact that her husband, all of her womanhood is in her husband, and she just doesn't have to do anything. Meanwhile, a lot of times these women, they have to work. Their husband isn't rich. They have to work. They just have some man who got a beautiful woman, but he couldn't she still has to work. You don't know what mortgage problems they're having. You don't know what issues they're having with their kids. A lot of these women's kids are not doing well. Their kids are not beautiful. So you got to be careful of women who are throwing around their marriage, when you're single. Um and again, if you've been friends with someone long term, you may have an actual friendship, but you have to understand you are single. Another reason you reach the age of 40 and you're still single and everyone else is married is because you're always coming to your friends and family's rescue. Every time your married friends or your coupled friends or your friends or family that has kids, you're always running to the rescue, being the cleanup maid for all their problems. You're the cleanup maid. And every interaction you have with your extended family and friends who have their own family, who are married, is you helping them clean up some mess in their marriage. You don't cut your married friends off and say, hey, yeah, you do have a higher status than me, so let me start to interact with people in my same social status, which is single, because you end up being the perpetual maid for married people. That's how they see you as. They call you with their problems instead of relying on their husband or wife or kids or whatever. You're the one who has to help them make their marriage successful. Never mind you. Now when the honeymoon is over and now the marriage is all problems and struggles and kids and money problems and the honeymoon's over, you're the one they call to solve their problem, to feel like they're still on a fucking honeymoon, instead of you treating every day of your life like a honeymoon. That's why you getting up and complaining about, oh my God, I'm single, child free, and oh, I have cats and all this and that. Shut the fuck up and treat your life and treat yourself. And stop running to your married friend's rescue like the little cleanup fairy. They don't see you as a person. They see you as a cleanup robot that validates their marriage and they use to make their marriage better. Stop doing that. You've spent all of your life helping your friends who have help because you don't have anything better to do. Kendra G has a dating show. Um, ah, I'm thinking of Cynthia G. Bless Queen. I'm thinking of Cynthia G. She exposes the inferiority of black men a lot. Kendra G I've heard of, but I have not watched her dating show. I definitely heard of her, but I was thinking of Cynthia G. So you can elaborate on if her dating show talks about any of this, or if it's touched on any of these things. But I hope that I've shown the mathematics, the practical formula for how you end up single at the age of 40, how you got there, and what the solution to not being single for the next 5, 10 years. The first problem and solution is your friends that are married and have been married for more than 5 years and have watched you be single. I can guarantee they brag about their sex life. They brag, and you know what the thing is? They like to mock. And if you're a single woman and you have male friends that are married, your friend is the guy who's married, I can guarantee you he mocks your position being single. He's happy to brag about having a sex life when you, as a beautiful woman, probably rejected him at some point, which is why you're friends with a man. You friendships zoned him at some point, or he was too bitch made to even ever really come at you because you were so beautiful that he wanted to be around you as a friend and soak up your beauty, and he married the first ugly bitch that married him. And now he likes to brag and act like he's better than you. I can guarantee if you're a single woman and you have male friends that are married, I can guarantee they use their marriage or the fact that they have a wife and you're still single to belittle you, to brag about their sex life, and to mistreat you and downgrade you. And you probably don't know it because it comes off as joking, or it comes off, or you feel like he's treating you like a friend. No, he likes the fact that like I said, if you look at the comment section on that reel, all the men were accusing that women of having too high standards. You, as a woman, you have to have high standards. And if you do have high standards, that's why you're single. You have to accept your high standards and live in those high standards. And you have to demand that everyone meets those standards. And if your friends are low value and they're not meeting your standards, you're not going to even be in a community where the men can. You have to check your social circle. So again, your problem solutions. All of your married friends don't like you or jealous of you and benefit from you being single, and they use your singleness as a form to validate their mediocre marriage. Happy people don't brag about the things that make them happy. They're too wise to know that one, it's rude. Classy people understand what's rude and what's not. That's why, like I said, a lot of most black men, you cannot take them to a classy establishment or environment at all, because they don't know what's rude and what's not. Everything in the black community is about being rude to one another. That's black culture. Let's be as rude as we possibly can to one another. Namely, let me sleep with a woman and not marry her and turn her into a mother, and let me continue to have sexual relationships with other women after I have taken away this woman's feminine freedom by turning her into a mother instead of a wife. Black men only know how to be rude and disrespectful, so much that they think that it's etiquette. They think they're being convenient. They think they're being cool, polite. You can't take them into, you know, and that's true for, unfortunately, a lot of lower class men, a lot of white men who um have labor jobs. I guess the difference between blue collar and white collar, so to speak, but a lot of lower class white men, they still earn, they earn enough to have a house, have a car, have a marriage, and kids and everything. But they don't have any class, and they think it's funny and it's cute that they drink beer instead of wine, or that they don't know anything about expensive things, or good tequila or certain things. They think it's cute to be low class, and they take pride in, yeah, I'm a simple guy, this and that. These men have no class, and they take pride in it. And that's what I'm trying to say. As a you know you you have, as a single woman, child free over 40, you got to understand that you have more class than other people, and you have not been making people reach the genuine standards you have. You're acting like your standards are lower than they are because you don't want to be alone, and you've ended up alone. You've ended up alone, trying so desperately to not end up alone by lowering your standards, and you've lowered your standards your entire life. It's time to live in your genuine standards. All of your friends, your female friends, have low standards, and they would never be able to meet your standards either. That's why they're married and you're not. They can't offer men in their community who meet your standards. They married low, they married easy, they married quick, and they married the one option they had. So understand, it's your friend circle. And the quicker you stop hanging around married people, the quicker you only invest in relationships with single child free women over the age of 40, if that's your age. Some women may be in their 30s or even in your 20s. Um, but in again, in your 20s, you still got to 30 to apply this information now. So by the time you're 30, you end up with a husband, because you don't have to wait until you're in your 40s to look around like, gee, I haven't been wise. I've been hanging around people who hate me my whole life. And you've lowered your standards looking for validation, and you've ended up alone. The next You get rid of all of your friends. Get rid of all of your married friends. Stop hanging around married people. Stop hanging around your friends who are addicted to alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, or sex. Stop hanging around your friends who are immoral and who have addictions. They're only going to know other people who have addictions. They're only going to relate to other people who have addictions. Get in the gym. The gym is a culture. You're going to meet friends in the gym. Men are going to holler at you. That all types of men are going to see you working out. And because they take themselves seriously, they are going to take you seriously as a woman. Get in the gym. And get in the gym, and don't dress like a slut, because men are overstimulated by all these women who walk around naked because they're single, child free, over 40 or over 30, and they're desperate. And a lot of them are desperate for black dick. They got with some black guy, because they're part of this porn hookup culture. You know, they're in the gym, they got with a black guy, and now they're desperate for black dick. And and so they are acting like um they're behaving like slutty black women. You know, they're acting the way black women, you know how black women are sexually exploited all the time. They're acting the way you act when you're injected with the inferiority of the black man. They're sexually exploiting themselves. And a lot of that is related to dealing with black men who have pimped them out, because that's what black men do. So they dealt with these bad black men to get some validation. Now they're now they have that inferiority demon, and they slut themselves out. But it's the desperation of women in general who are desperate for male attention. They're desperate. And so if you go to the gym and you cover up a little, or you dress a little bit modestly, and you actually focus on your workout instead of trying to be an influencer, showing everyone your ass in leggings and showing everyone you're working out, if you just go and actually just work out, the men will come and holler at you. And you will find a man who is actually single, and has that same high standard as you. If you go and you dress like a slut at the gym, men some the younger black men will come at you to try and sleep with you. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you dress like a slut at the gym, younger black men are gonna try and have sex with you, probably some of the personal trainers, and you will be the 10th or 12th person that year that he got to bust down. It's your choice. You're an adult. But the solution to being single, child free, over 40, get rid of all of your friends. You have to get into a culture where people work out, or where people are rich. Those are your only options. Why? Because you're 40, and you've gotten to the age of 40 not without the wisdom and intellect to recognize everyone around you hates you. So now you only have the options to invest in yourself, physically or financially. Those are your only options. Otherwise, you're going to end up complaining about how depressed you are because you're single over 40 and all of your friends are married. You have to stop comparing yourself to your friends. You're not your friends. You're single, child free, over 40. Your friends are married. Stop comparing yourself to them. That's immature, and it's going to get you nowhere. You said, what's your thoughts on interracial relationships between black men and white women? It's a slave syndrome. It's spiritually despicable. It's spoken against, especially in the book of Ezra in the Bible. These men are, first and foremost, black men are free to make whatever choice they have. And the freedom that we've achieved as black people, that black men now have legal rights, and just as men, they're not our children. You know, black men are men, and men have a right to do what they want as an adult. So first and foremost, black men have the freedom to marry white women, to be with them. The trash takes itself out. As a black woman, how do I feel about it? That tells me everything I need to know about that black man. And I look at it and I teach that it is a slave syndrome. And it's a syndrome for anyone. All these white people that have fetishes to sleep with black people too, they're just as sick. So the deepest forms of biblical spirituality is you're dealing with bestiality on a genetic level. You're dealing with bestiality when you're dealing with the human genetic and the recessive mutated Caucasian Gentile genetic. It's bestiality on a biblical level. It is representing a castration of regality and a castration of sovereignty on a spiritual level. And that deals with the fact that the black man has historically and spiritually more wealth. It is the idea of Samson and Delilah. So that black man is going to be weakened through that union. He will not be empowered. He will be weakened. Black men pursuing white women is a pursuit of social status. So while it is despicable, and as Black High Priestess, I'm not going to condone it on a practical level. Look at black women. If you, while I can think as a black woman and say how despicable it is, and basically say that man has a right, live and let live, I don't determine what that man does with his life. But the trash takes itself out. These men take themselves away from black women who have dignity and self-respect and understand what that union means for us. However, if I was a black man, if I thought and put myself in the shoes of a black man with the same mentality that I have, but now I have to put myself in the shoes of a black man, would I be dating modern black women, or would I relate to women of a different background? So I think that, again, we live in a world where black men have the freedom to choose, and the choices they make say a lot about them. And I think there's an incredibly small percentage of black men who genuinely do not relate to the average black woman, who genuinely do not relate. And I'm not saying these men that are raised around white women, they're programmed, they only watch media with white women, and they're brainwashed to only see white women as sex symbols, and to only see black women as like mothers or sisters. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the reality that black women are so marginalized by choice, by, like I said, black women acting like you can't speak proper English. You got to understand what black women are giving to black men. Black men have the option to date women that are fit, that are classy, that come from backgrounds where they were raised with high class, with dignity, self-respect, and they don't have to teach that woman how to see herself as a wife or something other than a sex symbol. You got to understand, as any man, the women you are presented with, are you going to go for the race of black women and what most black women are presenting? Are you going to go for something traditional because these white women are going to lower their white privilege to be with some nigga who still comes from slavery? But if a white woman has such low self-worth and self-value that she wants to be with a black man, as a black man, are you going to take a woman who historically may come from a different background that you just relate to more? Are you going to deal with the black fatigue that comes with masculine women, unruly women, women who don't work out, women who think it's cute to be overweight, you know? So I as a woman, I have to deal with black men. But as a black man, imagine being a black man and having to deal with black women. I struggle to deal with black women. So I cannot rightfully, in my experiences with black women, judge a black man for choosing a race of women who are simply raised better. And but as someone who understands a lot more, you got to understand one thing about black men. If a black man wants to be with a black woman and has a preference for black women, he is going to be surrounded by black women. Every black man, whether he was raised in the suburbs or whether he has moved to a predominantly white community, that he prefers white women. No black man is going to put himself in a predominantly white community if he prefers black women. I don't care if he's married to a black woman. He's not going to surround himself by white people and be the only black man for miles if he does not have a preference for white women. So, sisters, if you want to know if a black man has a preference for you and is going to treat you right because you are what he treasures, instead of treasuring women of other races, you'll know by the fact that he lives in a black community. Doesn't have to be a poor black community. Most likely it won't be a rich one, but he won't be in a community where um there's less than 1% black people. All right? He won't be in an environment where there's no black women. So that is one thing you have to pay attention to about black men. Any black man who puts himself in an environment where there are no black women, he does not like black women. When you go to the gym, you don't dress crazy. You just wear sweatpants, a nice crop top with a sweater. Don't dress provocatively at the gym. I'm letting you ladies know. If you're single, child free over 40, you have got to invest in a gym membership. The more I don't want to say the more expensive, but the more private the gym, the more likely you're gonna meet men of your standard. You have got to start living a life of exclusive. You are in an exclusive group of people. Being single, child free over 40, and the reel that I'm responding to said 50% of women. I think that may be about right, but I don't think people are factoring in major cities versus everywhere else where people just get married because there's lower populations, everyone's ugly or good looking, you know. We're in a major city. Not only is there people stacked on each other, people travel to major cities. So in major cities, there's a lot more human traffic. There's more human traffic. So, so what I'm trying to say is when you're around a lot of human traffic, you're not in the more exclusive areas where there's less population and people are more likely to hook up because there's not less options. It's just a more exclusive community. So the idea of a gym membership or any type of thing of exclusive is the more exclusive the gym, the more likely you're going to meet more exclusive people. The more traffic there is, yeah, the more people you're going to meet, the higher probability of you meeting a match, but also the higher probability of you dealing with the stress of going through several hundred people who you don't match with, who will holler at you, want your number, the more probability of you wasting your time with low hanging fruit instead of just going for the goal, putting yourself in a place where the gold winners afford and pay the price to be in an exclusive place. You're going to be around the people who think like you and who make the same investment in themselves as you do versus being around the people who make low investments in themselves where there's a lot of traffic because the value is low. So if you're single, child free over 40, you got to stop playing around with your value and recognize you're in a unique position. You're in an exclusive club. You have to act like it. You're in the club of single, child free women over 40. We are a club. We're exclusive. So stop inviting everyone into this experience when no one else is living it. Divorced women aren't not living it. Married women aren't living it. Single mothers aren't living it. You got to be exclusive. You have to invest in yourself. You're not 20 child free over 40. Single child free. You're not single child free and 20. You're single child free over 40. You spent 20 years being surrounded by people who are trash, who don't like you and have done nothing for you. You've got to look at yourself and why you are staying in positions that don't serve you. And you got to accept that a husband's not going to fall out the sky like he did for some women. You're not going to find a man that you're in love with who is also knows how to commit to one woman. I can guarantee you've been in several relationships with men who you were in love with, who were in love with you. The sex was good, maybe the sex was bad, maybe the money was good, but these men did not know one fundamental thing. They did not have the desire or the ability to commit to one woman. And that takes a certain type of man. And you cannot continue to date men who do not have the intention of pouring his masculinity into making you feel beautiful. What else do you want from a marriage? You know how to cook and clean for yourself. You make your own money. It's not that you shouldn't want all the things you want from a marriage, but at the end of the day, if your husband cannot make you feel like a woman, make you feel beautiful, what are you doing? Cohabitating with somebody who does not understand the importance, cohabitating with someone who doesn't understand the importance of dates, flowers, compliments, date nights to make the honeymoon stay alive, the honeymoon phase feel alive, helping out with the kids. The level of competence that it takes a man to create a healthy marriage and a safe marriage for a woman. You gotta you have got to recognize that has never been abundant. That's it's all throughout history, women have been married and they've dealt with abuse, they've dealt with this, they've dealt with that. You have to recognize and accept, as a single child free woman over 40, you are in a very privileged position, because you would have ended up with whatever was left over. Some women got the good men who knew how to love a woman, and you would have ended up with this leftover men, small penis or small penis energy, don't know how to satisfy a woman in bed, doesn't know how to love a woman, doesn't even like women, secretly gay. This is what women were forced to marry because they couldn't have bank accounts or jobs or vote. Shut the fuck up. Cut all your friends off. Start hanging around other women who can actually relate to you, and count your blessings. We are not in a bad position. You know who's in a bad position? A woman who ex-husband, and she's got it's called Burned Beauty, or her channel. Her ex-husband threw acid on her and burned her. That's the type of man she got. Or you can get a guy like the woman in her 20s who a black doctor just went live to warn black women that we're now becoming leading, or the number one ones, becoming the new ones leading in having new HIV cases, because so many of us are dating down low black men. You know, or you can be like some of these women that I actually meet who are over the age of 40 and who have kids by a man and decided to get divorced, and are now just reaching 50, are now deciding to try and discover themselves sexually because they stayed in a marriage where they didn't have to work, but they've never been sexually satisfied. You could be over 40, never had an orgasm. You can be over 40 and be a burned beauty who has a whole YouTube channel with deformities because of the man you decided to settle for or be with, or the red flags that you didn't ignore because you just had to have a husband. You could be being cheated on, let alone by a down low gay man who brings you back a friendly little three letter gift. Stop fucking complaining like being single child free over 40 is so bad. The only reason you think it's so bad and you're depressed is because all of your friends like to brag. All of your married friends or friends who are in a relationship intentionally like to brag and belittle you. And they like to brag about their mediocre relationship to you, because that's what their friendship with you is based on. The validation they get from knowing you're single or not. And that's gonna come a lot from these men more than the women. If you're a beautiful woman, you got a bunch of guy friends and they all got baby mamas, wives, women that they cheat on, girlfriends that they never bring around because they're always acting like they're single. They enjoy you being available for them to play in your face while they going back to some ugly woman that they can keep in the holster if you reject them, or when other beautiful women reject them when they're acting single. They got some ugly fat woman that they're having sex with. Trust me. Trust me. Especially if he's black. She could be white, Latina, Mexican, Venezuelan, Asian, or she could be a sister. He's got an ugly, fat woman that he has regular sex with, probably has babies with. He's got a slave mammy somewhere. and he goes out and he acts single and he acts eligible. And if you say no, he can go sleep with Miss Piggy at home. All of these black men do. You think I'm blessed, queen? Test it. Take 5 black men that you know that like you, but that have women or have kids by other women. I mean, they may not be real with it, but ask them. Ask them for them to have a real conversation with these guys and say, let me see a picture of your wife. Let me see a picture of your baby mama. And really, that's kind of a rude thing. I don't believe in asking people to see a picture of someone. But what I will say is do your research. Go through their go through their social media because they're gonna lie about it. They're waiting to fuck you, bless queen. And they just want to fuck you. They're gonna still stay with her. Why? Because he's doing better financially with Miss Piggy. He gets to go out into the world and act like he puts gas in that car that he drives when he gives you rides here and there. He gets to go out into the world when he acts single and probably looks good and probably dresses fairly decently or keeps his hair cut nice or his beard cut nice or whatever. And he goes out into the world and he gets to act like all the things he has is on his own when he's living with a fat ugly woman who probably does all the brunt in taking care of the kids, picking them up from school, do this and this and that. She probably has 2 jobs herself. But he goes and he acts single in your face. Go through their page. And when I say go through their page, 10 years back, honey. Find their other pages that they had 12 years ago when they looked younger, when they first hooked up with the woman. Go take 5 of your black male friends, especially the ones who have been to jail before, and go through their social media accounts, and I mean go back 10 years back. Look at the woman that they were with. That's the woman he's living with. That's his baby mama. Look at the one he's taking all the lovey-dovey looking pictures with. Why is he looking lovey-dovey? Because at that time when he was down bad, she was the non-black fat woman or the insecure black woman who was giving him money when he didn't have a car, when he just got out of jail, or when he was down bad, or when he couldn't get a job. She was paying him for dick. She was giving him money, letting him borrow her car, letting him ride around. They were fuck buddies and this and that. And he could never do better. So he just ended up marrying her, getting her pregnant, and keeping her around. And she was buying him the whole time. Go back 10 years. They all have fat, ugly women. And they go out into the world and they act single. So my point to say that was to warn women, especially sisters, when you're dealing with these black men who have no sexual self-control and dignity, understand your male friends, especially the lower class that they are, the more they will like to brag to you as a single woman about having somebody. The moment you want to sleep with him, he'll act single, he'll act down, but it'll just be for sex. You know why? Because if you're not going to pay for this or pay for that or move him in, and now remember he has kids. So if you're not going to help him take care of the kids that he has, like Miss Piggy is, he's just going to want sex. You got to understand, ladies, when you deal with low class people, eat, sleep, shit, fuck. That's all they do. And there's going to be an addiction to some substance in there. That's low class, low purpose. So when you have these male friends, that you friend zoned, he's like I said, your female friends will brag about their marriage, but your male friends, they'll probably do it a little bit. They'll probably do it a little bit more just to make sure you as a beautiful woman feel the sting of not choosing him or not choosing men like him and wanting men that are better than him. So cut off all of your friends. I agree with you? Do you feel the same about black men with Latinas? Latinas are white women with the Spanish accent. These are white women. You got to understand, black is black. Black is African. You know if a woman's African or not. You'll know by her hair texture. All right? If she can't crack a comb with her hair texture, she's not black. All right? North, south, east, west, Africa, I don't give a fuck. If she is not pigmented, and I shouldn't even say that. Like if you know, um it's really the hair texture. It's really the hair texture. If she's darker than a brown paper bag, she's considered black. She's a dark-skinned woman. But to be a black woman, if you you know, um if you do not have a thick kinky hair texture, you're not black. That is our distinguishing factor, hair like wool. That is a distinguishing factor. Every race has dark skin and light skinned people in it. Every race has albino people to heavily pigmented, darker skinned people. Every single ethnicity has light skin and dark skinned individuals. It is the hair texture that determines whether or not you are a Delilah to the Samson or a mate. Do you have the same hair texture as that man? If you don't have the same hair texture as a black man with locks, you're a foreign woman. And he has forfeited his black male sovereignty to empower your recessive genetics. And a black woman should be very cautious of dealing with a man like that who has given his energy away to a foreign race, namely a woman who probably has a deep rooted envy of black women and is exercising that through dating that man. Black women do not date white men out of envy for white women. We do it out of um um what could I say? Inferiority of the black man. We do not do it out of envy for white women. White women do not date black men because white men are inferior. White women don't date black men because white men are broke and disrespectful and don't know how to treat a woman and have slave syndromes. It's not why white women date black men. And black women don't date white men because we want to look like a white girl, because we envy the features of a white woman, or because we want to look like white women or have what white women have. We do it because black men cannot measure up to the basic masculinity and civilization of how to treat a woman and what to have. Black women date white men to avoid being single, child free over 40. White women date black men with a lot to prove and very little to offer other than maybe some social status and a social circle of wealth. So, I hope this helped. I didn't really want to be on here this long, but I really do appreciate you guys interacting and asking questions, because I do love answering your guys' questions. But those reels kind of they irked me a little in a way where Oshun was really kind of giving me wisdom to share. She was just like putting all these thoughts and ideas and statements in my head, where it's just like I really just had to reach out to single child free women over 40 and let you know, level up, invest in yourself, get rid of all of your friends. Like, I put that image there, that image of me modeling. That was like an outtake from my last photo shoot, but I thought it was so fitting. You have to say fuck the world, because the world has said fuck you. You have been in a community, in an environment that does not love you. That's why you have not found your mate. That environment loves the women who are like your friends that are married. Probably fat, probably ugly, probably short, probably lower class, and probably not any real talent or skill, just became a mother. And probably, and if there is any real talent or skill, they waited 15, 20, 25 years after the children were grown to realize, gee, I don't have any purpose as a woman. I'm bored with my marriage. Let me let me start painting. Let me get into wine. Let me start doing yoga. Let me do what women of substance do. Let me do these things that all these women who have substance and who are single, let me get into what they do, because I've had kids and I'm still ain't shit. So, and now that my kids are gone and I'm not in love with my husband anymore, you know, let me find some personality. And it's better that women take up like some hobby, because most of them will just find some other woman's husband to fuck when she gets bored fucking her own. She'll just go from feeling better than other women for having a husband to, well, oh, let me just take your husband. Let me just sleep. She'll just become some swinger who likes to sleep with like teenage black guys, who are on, she likes to sleep with her friends, like her son's black friends, or or she'll try and start sleeping with the some other woman's husband just to get a thrill. So it's better that these women, it's better that they take on a hobby that women with actual personality have been doing all of our lives. It's better that they do that than to just become a married slut, which is what most of the other women do. So you gotta understand, you know, being single, child free, over 40 it's a club. All right. Have a great day, blessed queen. Peace and love. But again, thank you guys for listening. I hope this resonated with a lot of ladies. And what I'm trying to say is, you got to understand, be awesome. You're in this situation. If your legs work, if you're not handicapped, if you're not in a wheelchair and you still have your beauty, you need to pour into yourself, let go of everyone, and you need to recognize that your new social circle is only other single child free people over 40. It's not your married friends. It's not these divorced people. It's not everyone with all this baggage that they're bringing into the dating realm. You've got to get with other single child free people over 40. And we have got to start coming together and dating each other. That's why I say, don't listen to any relationship guru who's telling you to not get on dating apps. Just because they didn't have to get on a dating app to find their spouse doesn't mean you don't. You're not in the same position they're in. You're not in a marriage trying to make money off of single people when you have no idea of what being single is like. Don't you dare listen to married people. You have to start listening to single people. And the best thing you can do is listen to someone who has been single for over 10 years and has been engaged or got married in the last 2 years. That's the only married person you can listen to. Someone who got engaged in the last 2 years, someone who is a newlywed, who's been married for like 6 months to a year, but they were single for 10 years before that. It's the only person you can listen to say, hey, this is what I did. And what you're going to find, unfortunately, because I think a lot of women are looking for your husband to fall out of the sky, or you're looking for it to happen the way it happened to your other friends. You're not like your other friends. You look better than your other friends. You're more talented than them. You have more going than them. You have much higher standards than them. And you didn't want to pop out a baby in your 20s. That's why you're still child free. You don't want kids. You want a man. Then you'll think about it, which means you're high value. All right? So it's not going to happen the way it happened to your other friends. Cut off your other friends. Stop talking to them. Stop hanging out with them. They don't care about your pain. They think it's funny. They think it's cute. It makes them feel cute to know that you're suffering single. All right? You have to get around other single child free people and stay away from people with baggage, because they're just going to make you feel more unloved, because they will never be able to prioritize you. They're prioritizing the person they divorced because they're still in love with them. They're prioritizing their ex that they have a kid with because they're still in love with them because they have a kid with them. They're prioritizing whatever substance they're addicted to and they can't go to dinner with you without the substance they're addicted to. They can't have class in a nice restaurant because they're high off of or drunk off of whatever they're addicted to. And if they're addicted to anything other than money and being healthy, your relationship's going to be a living hell anyway. So, your only choice is to level up. Level up, be around people of class, be around people who are mature, not people in relationships who become more and more immature because they have no empathy or sympathy. They think they're better and they like to go out and make fun of other people who are handicapped in wheelchairs. What do I mean by that? Earlier in this upload, I mentioned the analogy of married people bragging about their marriage to single people is no different than people with legs go intentionally walking up and finding people who are wheelchair bound, who have lost their legs or whose legs don't work or who are paralyzed, and intentionally going up to that person and bragging about going swimming or running or doing a trampoline, or more importantly, bragging about having sex, what they get to do with their marriage, that's stop surrounding yourself by these married people. That's what they do. They like to go up to single people and brag about having a sex life. Why? Because that woman feels that you are sexier than her and she wants to make you feel ugly, like no one chose you for sex. She wants to make you feel, yeah, I get to have sex. I got chosen, but you don't. You're single, so I'm going to go brag to you. She's not bragging to another married woman about her sex life because she might get jealous of that married woman whose marriage is better and happier and wealthier than hers. So that's the analogy. When you're single, child free, over 40, you have got to look at married people as people with legs. And I don't want to say look at yourself as like someone who's handicapped, but you got to understand the way married people look at you is as if you're handicapped and they have legs. You should not feel that way. Don't go out into the world feeling that way. How you should feel is more beautiful than other women, more powerful than other women, knowing that you have had way more options than other women. And you should feel like every day that I'm not chosen, you should make it that much harder for someone to choose you. Why? Because every day you're getting better. And that's your only option. Your only option when you're single, child free, over 40, and you want a man's love, you want marriage, your only option is to get better every day. And if you get better every day by going to the gym, eating healthy, and making more money, I promise you, you'll raise your standards, and that's when you're going to find your match. Your match is a much higher value man than you have been around your entire life, because you're a much higher value woman than you've been surrounded by your entire life. Accept it already. And I don't care if you don't consider yourself attractive, like I was talking about the women. I don't care if you think you're ugly or fat. You're still more high value. That's why you're single over 40. That's why you're at the age of 40 or above and are still single. Your friends, your family, your environment hates you. Start loving yourself, pouring into yourself, and making other people meet you where you're at. Meet the investment that you're making in yourself and do the work. What does that mean? Dating is an activity. Dating is not passive. Get out there and do the work. Get dressed, meet people, date. Get on a dating app, have a conversation with a man, plan the date, show up at your best. And don't say anything stupid. All right? Be feminine. Don't be awkward and don't be stupid. Be yourself. All right? Peace and love.